Welcome back to The Architect. My name is Edward Mugo and you're watching The Architect by Edward Mugo. On this show, we've tried to educate you on various aspects on the building space. Today, it's our pleasure to talk about the Riparian Reserve. What is a Riparian Reserve? It is important to know that this is a very common issue when, especially to those plot owners or property owners who have properties near a river or a lake. A Riparian Reserve comes from the word river. This land is between your plot and the river. Every plot in Kenya is measured, if you are near a river, it's measured to the center of the river. It is assumed, therefore, that that river will flood at one point in the year. It will flood and cover some area between your land and the center of the river. Now, that is what we refer to as the Riparian Reserve. It happens also with lakes and sea. There's an area that is left over which is not meant to be, no buildings meant to be put up there. It is meant to be free of any buildings. If you remember the horror story we had of the flood that collapsed in Huruma, that was principally because people had encroached and built on the Riparian Reserve. So it's important to note that any building that goes in the Riparian Reserve is a danger to itself and its occupants. And for you, the property owner, it will give you losses and even lawsuits. You remember the owners were actually taken to court and they were charged in a court of law. Now, it is, if you look at this title piece of, this is what we call a deed plan, you will note that at one point, the property boundaries are indicated. Then there is a space after the property, the boundaries leading to the middle of the river. This area which I have now shaded is what we call the Riparian Reserve. If you see this in your property, this area is actually not meant to be part of the acreage which is shown on your title deed. This is extra space, but is meant to be for non-building purposes. It is allowed by NEMA and the authorities to use it for landscaping, to use it for children's play park, a vegetable garden. That you can do. What you cannot do, you cannot put any permanent structure on it that will impede the flow of water. You cannot put a boundary wall which is non-perforated. You can you are allowed to put a grilled fence or any kind of boundary that can allow water to pass through, like a live fence. But you're not allowed to put any fence that or any wall that is solid and will impede the flow of water. Because again, that wall is a danger to the users. If somebody is standing behind that user and water comes and embarks on the wall and the force of water is very strong, it will actually collapse the wall. A lot of times we've seen that the force of water has knocked down very many walls every time there's a rain. So this is what we consider the Riparian Reserve. And it proceeds even to your neighbors and continues on both sides of the river, so that if there is ever a flood, then that is contained within that zone. So therefore, when you are buying a piece of property, it is important to note where, if it is near a river especially, make sure that the acreage that is shown on the title is the same as what is on the property by using a surveyor, less the Riparian Reserve. The Riparian Reserve is not your property. It is actually a public use land which is meant to be for that purpose of taking the flood waters. We've talked about the floodplain with regards to the Riparian Reserve, but that begs the question: what is a floodplain? Is it important to us when we are looking for property? I'm sure as you go and look for plots, all these the companies in the radio, on TV, telling you, come, we go and tell you plot A, plot B, plot C, it's important to ask yourself, where you are buying, is it an area that will have problems? If there is one, the river will overflood, or there's a very much rain, are you in trouble? So that's where, for me personally, I advise my clients, if you're going to buy a piece of property that is flattish, in a flattish area, the best time to do it is when it is a rainy season. The reason for this is that that's the time you'll know the kind of natural drainage that there is on the ground. If it is if it's a dry season, you'll get a very nice property, very well drained, apparently looking dry and nice. But come the rains, you'll be shocked that even access to that site will be a problem. You'll need a very serious four-wheel drive. So floods and floodplains are very key issues when you are looking for a property, and it is important to make a very wise decision. Look at your neighbors, talk to your neighbors, and ask, does this place flood? What happens when the river, probably not even the rain there, there's some rivers that bring water from very far upstream. So ask the questions, when this river floods, does it spread out? Is it well drained does it have a very defined edge, or does it spread out and cover our land? So for me, I think my queries to the plot seller and the company selling to you would be very, very specific if you're buying land in a flat area. It does not mean that we cannot build where it is muddy or waterlogged, but it is important to note that any building that is off the beaten path, off the normal, which is red soil or marram, will cost you more. Building in a wet area that you need to float a slab or use piles will be done, yes, but it will cost you more. That is all we have for you for today. Feel free to get in touch with us using our Facebook, our website. We'll be happy to handle any query you have on this and any other matter related to the building space. My name is Edward Mugo, and you are watching The Architect. Thank you, and God bless you.